In President Biden's State of the Union, his pro-abortion stance was front and center. This year, he and the First Lady welcomed Kate Cox into the halls of Congress for the address. Cox wanted an abortion in her home state of Texas after doctors diagnosed her baby with trisomy 18, a rare chromosomal disease that affects brain and body development. Her doctors claimed they were unsure whether this abortion would be legal because state law prohibits nearly all abortions. Cox sued the state of Texas and demanded an abortion at 20 weeks gestation. She lost the suit and traveled to New Mexico for the life-ending procedure. She and her husband named the baby girl they lost Chloe. Ms. Cox said in an interview, quote, "I gave her a name because she'll always be my baby. Her middle name is my grandfather's name, so she'll know who to look for in heaven." Dr. Monique Ruberu, a pro-life OB.G.Y.N and advocate, is here now to weigh in. Dr. Ruberu, thanks for being here. It's clear that Kate Cox is grieving the loss of her child. I know you can't speak to the exact specifics of her case as she isn't your patient, but how do you advise women who receive diagnoses like trisomy 18?
So the issue is every single life is precious, and nobody on this planet is perfect by any means. So when I encounter a woman who has any prenatal diagnosis that would be different from a completely normal pregnancy according to what we consider to be normal medically, I would always let them understand that their baby's life is precious. And although their baby's life may look a little bit different, their baby's appearance may look a little bit different, their baby may have different challenges in life.
Right.
It doesn't make the worth of that life any different. We're all worth equally. We're all worth so much in God's eyes, and we should be worth that much in each other's eyes. Every life is worth protecting, and we all have different problems. Some people might have diabetes. Some people might have severe allergies. Some people might have Down syndrome. Some people might have trisomy 18. Some people might have lung issues or intestinal issues or gut malrotation, but it doesn't make that life worth any less and worth fighting for.
And we know that ultimately Texas law enforcement didn't allow Ms. Cox to have this abortion in her home state. But if she had decided not to travel out of state for the abortion, what could the rest of her pregnancy have looked like?
You know, it varies pregnancy to pregnancy. So babies that have trisomy 18 can have a lot of different issues depending on how severe that trisomy 18 is.
Yeah.
The baby could have had polyhydramnios, which means a buildup of fluid around the baby if the kidneys weren't functioning well. The baby could have just had issues with, the abnormalities with the bones, abnormalities with brain formation. But it could have been a preterm delivery. But at the same time, at the gestation of 20 plus weeks, it could have been a baby that was still moving in the uterus. It could have been a baby that was still kicking in the uterus. A heartbeat was present. We know that. So all of these things, there are definitely malformations that occur with trisomy 18 as a part of that illness. But the baby was growing. The baby was moving.
Right. And it seems like it probably would have been a hard road either way, but it's important to know what that other alternative could have been. And I'm curious, Dr. Ruberu, could you speak to the efficacy of these diagnoses of disabilities or conditions in utero? How often do we know that these diagnoses are correct?
It's interesting. It really depends on the testing that is used, right? So the initial testing that is done is blood testing. And, previously it used to be just a quad test that was done. Now, more often, it's the NIPT blood test, which is much more specific, much more sensitive in picking up abnormalities. So even with that, though, there is still a percentage of abnormalities that they detect, which are not true abnormalities, and it's just a mistake. And so there is always a possibility when you do a test like this that there may be a false test. However, from that test, typically they would go on to further testing. They would do more invasive testing, where they actually test the amniotic fluid, or they test a part of the placental tissue in order to identify and understand exactly what the genetics are for this particular baby. And that is much more specific than it would be to just do the blood work.
Yeah.
There are also ultrasound findings that you would see with certain genetic abnormalities.
Before I let you go, Dr. Ruberu, as a pro-life doctor, from your perspective, what do you think of President Biden and the First Lady inviting someone like Ms. Cox to the State of the Union? What do you make of that?
I think they're obviously trying to show their support for abortion and abortion in all cases, and that they're trying to use this single case of a woman who has chosen abortion because of a medical malformation in her child, and trying to promote abortion. And we know that the majority of cases of abortion have nothing to do with a medical malformation. The majority of cases are chosen out of fear and out of concern that there would be a lack in that person's life, in that mother's life. And so they're trying to normalize abortion, and I don't think that it's a good thing.
Thank you, Dr. Ruberu. I appreciate your clarity on this. Thanks for joining us.